Today, grade 12, we are focusing on developing strategies, but you know very importantly that in business studies we cover four main topics. And so strategies would form part of business environments. And in business environments, we look at the impact of recent legislation on businesses, devising strategies, and also the business sectors. Dominique, can you talk about business ventures and roles for us?
Yes, the second topic is business ventures. Now, that is mostly your section B question 3, and essay question 8. When we look at business ventures, mostly in June, the management and leadership topic is covered. However, the rest of ventures is dealt with in term 3. We then look at new topics such as investments and securities and insurances. All the other topics were dealt with before. When moving along to business roles, focuses on section B, question 4, and then also the essay question 9. When we look at that, it's also repetitive work from grade 11 and grade 10, dealing with topics such as professionalism and ethics, creative thinking, CSI and CSR, team performances, etc. Operations.
Thank you. So business operations, we have done human resources in grade 11 already. Quality of performance, we started in grade 10 with, and that grade 10 is focusing on it now. But that makes up business operations, and that grade 12 make up the 4 topics as well as the main topics, the subtopics under the 4 main topics. Okay, cognitive level questioning. For all question papers and all assessments, we focus on the 3 different cognitive levels: lower order, middle order, and higher order. Today our focus is on strategies, and I think in September we have a session where we focus on exam techniques. So when we get to that, we will go more into detail with the different action verbs and how questions are being asked and exactly how you must answer those questions. Okay, Dominique will tell us about the content map.
When looking at the content map, as I said, in the FET phase, you build on content. So in grade 10, you were taught of the interrelationships and the definitions of the micro, market, and macro environment. And then in grade 11, you were taught how to develop certain or how to act on certain challenges, and also how to adapt to various influences. With that said, you are in grade 12 right now. Hence, you need to develop a plan of action or develop a strategy on how you are going to deal with the challenges or the influences.
Okay, then grade 12 terminology, which is very important, and terminology as well, you've built it up from grade 10 already, even up from grade 8 and 9. So it is important that you go through that glossary, and you will have a glossary in your notebook. The terminology for strategies, formulation of strategies, implementing a strategy, evaluating a strategy, new entrants, industrial tools, suppliers, buyers, competitors. Now, as we will see later on, when we do the activity, it is important for you to know your key concepts, because when the scenario talks about something like businesses selling similar or the same products, immediately you must catch on, Dominique.
It's a competitor.
Of course, it's a competitor. Okay, so what the learner must know. Okay, Dominique, can you tell us what learners must know in terms of strategies?
You definitely need to be able to define the concept, outline and describe the management or strategic management process. So be able to know the 8 various outlines for the strategic management process. Also, with that said, applying strategic management on how to solve various problems, and then identify and describe different types of business strategies, and then formulating strategies on how are we going to overcome this challenge. We said there's various influences. What's our plan of action? So we'll be formulating strategies and implementing them.
Okay, before we move on, just a good afternoon here from 659881978. Good afternoon to you, Kensington High. I failed to mention to my class 12E3 and all the other grade 12s of Kensington High, welcome. And I hope you are going to learn something this afternoon. Right, as we move along, also grade 12. Sorry, this PowerPoint is jumping. Okay, sorry about that. So learners also need to explain how business can apply strategies, evaluate the effectiveness of a strategy, and you, grade 12 learners, have to be able to analyze case studies and apply the industrial analysis tools. And we'll also see that later in the activities that we will present to you. Okay, then we know the SWOT analysis, grade 9 and grade 10. Porter's 5 forces, something new that you've learned this year. Paisley analysis, also something that you've been introduced to in grade 10 and 11. And then grade 12 also to recommend business strategies to address challenges identified from case studies and scenarios. And then lastly, outline and explain or recommend activities or steps in the strategy evaluation. Okay, so what is a strategy? And businesses have all these problems and all these challenges, right? And to overcome it or to respond to it, they develop a plan of action. Really a story about what are we going to do to overcome these problems. Then, how do they do this? They follow the strategic management process. So there's definitely a process. I've seen this because I was a marker last year for the national exam. I've seen this question come up many times in past papers, and it is important that you really know the process and you know the process well, right? So what do we do first? First, the business has to look at its vision statement. Its vision statement really tells the business what do they want to achieve for the business in the future, the big plan, what is their master plan, right? Then they need to analyze the mission statement. Mission statement, how are we actually going to realize this big plan, this master plan of ours?
If I can add, remember the business is forever in a changing environment and technological changes. So especially if it's a very established business, you need to review this constantly and ask yourself the question and reflect. Did I achieve it? Did I not? How can I? Or if I already achieved, what processes do I put in place now to adapt my vision or adapt my mission?
Yeah. So they're forever doing evaluation, if we can call it that. Right. So then they conduct an analysis. So now they use those industrial tools, that Paisley analysis, that SWOT analysis, that Porter's 5 forces. They look at that, and then based on what that results yield, they will then formulate the strategy.
So then they come up with a plan of action.
Exactly. So now they ask themselves, what are we going to do? And when they formulate that strategy, next they will implement the strategy. And by implementing the strategy, they will do exactly what they have planned. Yeah. So then they need to check up on the strategy, control it, monitor it. They also need to look at the positives and negatives, right? What was good, what was bad about the strategy, and then take corrective action. Okay, so Dominique.
But Chantal, that's a lot said. And expecting a grade 12 learner to know that off by heart, I mean, that's 8 steps. I'm sure none of you have memorized it thus far. Hence, to me, it's important while teaching and learning to develop acronyms so that we can remember much easily. With that said, Chantal, I thought there's no better way than creating an acronym, RACE-FI. We all know Wi-Fi, but instead of Wi-Fi, it is RACE-FI. It stems from the various letters from the strategic management process. So if we take the R in RACE-FI, it stems from review, vision, statement. Then we move along to the A, analyze the mission statement. And whoa, let's pause on the C. C has C to the power of 3. Meaning, Chantal, there's 3 C's that we need to look at. Right. When we are at C, we first need to conduct an analysis. There's also controlling of the strategies. And lastly, we have corrective action. So if I can repeat that for you. Conduct an analysis, control of the strategy, and then lastly, corrective action. Followed by E, and I mean the last three is quite easy because it's implement, formulate, and or let me rectify myself, evaluate, formulate, and then implement the strategy. So if you know those three last words, it's actually going to go quick.
Yeah. Right, Dominique, just to touch base with the learners again, we have a message from 6598881978, Kensington High, 12V1 and 12V5 present, as well as 12V2. Good afternoon to you. We hope that you're going to enjoy the session. There's another message from 626093969 and says the sessions are very helpful and we enjoy them so much. We attend every week from the Tankatu High School, Portsmouthburg, Northern Cape. Wow.
Wow.
So we've been tuned in from learners from the Northern Cape, from Mercia, Ayanda, and Portia. Good afternoon to you, grade 12s. Okay, we've also got a message here from Percy Ndladla High School from Neisner. Wow, beautiful Neisner is also tuned in. Grade 12s, moving on. So telematics gets converted into QR codes. And Dominique, I think this is an awesome consolidation tool for learners to use. QR codes could be downloaded. We have this book, and you can speak to your, if I can have an overhead shot, please. You can speak to your curriculum advisor, ask your teacher to speak to your curriculum advisor. So every topic that has ever been covered with telematics in this book is QR codes. You can download it, you can watch it, you can listen to it while you're traveling in the morning.
Doing your chores, doing the dishes. Wow. This QR codes actually reminds me of the old BBM.
Is it?
So yeah, so no, we don't want your BBM pin. All we want you to do is to download the app onto your phone. I mean, your mom's going to shout at you and say, do the dishes, why do you have your earphones plugged in? You're learning. It's e-learning. So we need to evolve and amend with times. If I can just do this under the screen quickly.
Yeah. So we're quickly going to take, can we have the slide on, please? Before we go. Just quick steps so that you can download your QR codes. You need to go to Play Store. And when you're in Play Store, you need to download the QR code reader or scanner, right? So once you have the scanner, you're going to scan the code. You're going to click on Open URL. Sometimes it says Browse Website, and it will take you directly to the WCD portal where you can watch any topic of your choice.
I just downloaded, Chantal, the app, and it's only 2.7 megabytes.
Okay.
With that said, let's see if it can work. So I'm opening it up. If you can just have a shot. I'm opening it up. Over here, I have the book. If you can see, let's see, it's already scanned. wcdeportal.co.za, e-resources 66246. We're waiting for the internet. Right? So automatically what will happen is you scan the code and then it will download, or you can save it on your phone as a download, or then listen live and watch live. So without any further ado, I think the learners are tech savvy.
Yeah.
If we can continue.
Okay. So as we move on, that is just a picture of the learners at Kensington High using this QR codes as consolidation. And we do it sometimes on a weekly basis, sometimes every 3 weeks. But the option is there to download or to watch in class because we are Wi-Fi connected.
Just a special hello to 12A from Valhalla High School. You are noted, Metro North.
Okay. Types of strategies, Dominique, can you take us through that?
There are 4 types of strategies, Chantal. With that said, it reminded me a lot of a childhood cartoon. And for those of you who perhaps remember Dexter, Dexter had a sister with the name of None other than DD. So DD is the acronym utilized here now today for you to remember the 4 various kinds of strategies one can implement. The first one being diversification. When thinking of diversification, I immediately think of variation and being different. Integration, followed by defensive in order to protect. And then very lastly, we have intensive, where we increase market share and sales. Chantal, can you then explain to us the various kinds of diversification strategies that can be utilized?
Okay, grade 12's diversification. We know that we want to increase the market share. We also know that we want to expand the business. We want to make the business bigger. So the 3 types of diversification strategies, they are concentric, horizontal, and conglomerate. So concentric is when the business adds related products to the current product, right? So concentric, the business is selling fried chicken, and so they may add fried chips with it. Sometimes they even go a step further and they add a cool drink for a combo, right? So that's all the ways they try to attract new customers. Also, they try to keep existing customers. Then horizontal is the example there, a car dealer selling or offering finance. So the core of the business is selling vehicles. Then they make it easier for the customer not to go out to the bank. The finance person is actually there in-house at the dealership. So they would do everything at one go, and the customer doesn't have to go back and
A very good example of that, if I might add, is Toyota. Toyota has its very own financing. And what about if we say you buy a cell phone at Edgar's, but Edgar's provides us with insurance for our cell phone as well?
Yeah, so
Extending.
that's a good example. Right, then we have the conglomerate, and the example there is General Electric is known for its electrical appliances, and they also engage in oil drilling and computer manufacturing. So today I also want to introduce you, Dominique, to Sir Richard Branson. Okay, so Sir Richard Branson is one of the people I idolize because he's such a good entrepreneur. But one of the reasons I also like him is that when he was a younger boy, he was dyslexic. And despite him being dyslexic, his principal, his headmaster, because he is from England, his headmaster told him that he would either be a prisoner or he'd be a millionaire. And so he proved everybody wrong, right? And he became this big millionaire, this business magnate. And he's responsible, we know in South Africa, we know Virgin Airlines, we know Virgin Mobile, we know Virgin
Active,
the gym, of course. So he's built this one brand into many, many other brands, but he is still the big boss of the brand, and he still possesses the brand name. Right. But have you been to Athlone already?
I'm actually from the northern suburbs, so Athlone is part of the south. I don't actually go to the south.
Okay, so one day I must take you to Belgravia Road. Because in Belgravia Road, South Africa has its own success story, its own conglomerate. So the Wembley brand, Wembley
I've heard of them.
Yeah, the Roadhouse, they have Wembley travel and tourism agency. They've got the meat market, and they've got many other stores also owned by one brand.
So that means local is lekker?
Of course. Right. So Dominic will speak to us about integration.
Well, integration stems from grade 11 content because it follows on taking over, mergers, and acquisitions. Now, how I always remember vertical moves up and vertical moves down, or down up, or up down. Horizontal, I remember as moving from left to right. It's like the horizon. So with that said, the vertical integration or forward and backward, I like explaining by, I am a farmer, I would like to move forward. Coming back to that, this vertical forward and backward integration links with the business sectors. If we know the business sectors, we know there are 3 main activities, or which are primary, secondary, and tertiary. So if I consider myself a farmer, I would then form part of the primary sector. But, for example, while coming to the studios today, I drove past Polka Dry, the strawberry farm.
Yeah.
So, which means that is primary. But on that very same farm, they also provide services, such as there's a restaurant, there's a play park for not the learners, but the children that's coming to visit. Meaning, they moved from primary, they moved forward in the business sector line, meaning they moved from the primary, they didn't manufacture anything, they automatically moved into the tertiary sector. Sometimes I provide a service and then I move back. And when I move back, it could either be to manufacture in the secondary sector or in the primary sector where I own the resources. So that is an example of both forward and backward integration. So forward, you are at primary or secondary, and you're moving to the front of the business sectors, which is secondary and tertiary, which lies ahead. With that said, backward is obviously you at tertiary and you're moving back in the production line, meaning you are moving to the secondary or the primary phase. With horizontal, Shoprite and Checkers, that's the immediate example we should think of, because Shoprite was an entity on its own, Checkers was an entity on its own. Hence, the two merged, and we now have Shoprite and Checkers. So, horizontal, it's similar businesses with similar services joining.
Okay, thank you, Dominique. Grade 12s, we have many students, especially from the Northern Cape, Dominique, tuned in, saying thank you that they're enjoying the lesson. They're actually saying thank you, we're enjoying the show. If I can just read here from Vumisipo in the Northern Cape, Kimberley. Grade 12s, also the questions that you are asking will be answered after the telematics session. We will be providing feedback via Google Docs, if I have it right.
Chantal, I need to say the Eastern Cape has also tuned in now.
Okay.
So, come on. We need more Western Cape schools as well, and the other provinces.
Right. So, on to the next types of strategies, right? Next is defensive strategies. So, under defensive strategies, grade 12, we get divestiture, we get retrenchment, and we get liquidation, right? So, defensive strategies, the business is now trying to defend its position, right? And it's also, they try to fend off attack from potential competitors. So they can either take part of a division of the company, sell it off, and then reinvest it into the business. So Dominic, you were telling me about something about Cross and Blackwell, if I remember it correctly.
Well, Chantal, I love mayonnaise. That's why I know.
Yeah.
I am a huge mayo fan, and Nestle was the company, I don't know if you know the glass jar of mayonnaise, the glass one, not the one with the red cap, the one with the dark green cap. That is actually a product of Cross and Blackwell. And Cross and Blackwell was manufactured by Nestle. A couple of years ago, Nestle had sold off that segment to Tiger Brands. So now when you turn the glass jar of mayonnaise, you actually will see this tiger. So when we're selling off that segment, we're selling off all the rights, the marketing, the recipe. Imagine KFC selling their secret recipe.
Oh gosh, that would be the end of them.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Okay, divestiture, then we're looking at retrenchment, which is next. Here in the example, they talk about Telkom reducing its workforce by 3,000 employees. And Dominique and I have just had a conversation over these past 2 days about Edcon, which is not so long ago, who is associated with Jet and CNA stores. They have retrenched over 3,000 workers. But Dominique has got this theory about why. And she told me about this theory. So I think she must share a theory with you guys.
Right. And here's where you develop some sort of insight, especially when writing the essays.
Yeah.
So I like to share beyond the literature. And with that, I followed the story of Edgar's. And it came to the point of, when you enter Edgar's store currently, It's filled with so many Mango, sunglasses, hat, Licenza, accessories, Aldo, Steve Madden. I mean, those are designer brands, but they are expensive. Many of us cannot afford them. So the focus isn't anymore on Edgar's and the brands such as Pro Action. They have all these in-house stores, which they generate such little profit from. And according to newspaper articles that I read, it stated clearly that the focus then moved away from the Edgar's customer, and it was just on this in-house brands. And with that said, they generated too little profit. I also want to say that Edgar's is established for more than 90 years in South Africa and has more than 21,000 permanent workers. I think Woolworths, looking back at Woolworths also found themselves in some sort of hot waters last year because of the David Jones brand. And that should actually remind us of being local, proudly South African, and supporting our very own brands. Yeah. Because in-housing all these international brands will bring financial difficulty.
Mm-hmm. As we see it now.
With Edcon.
Yeah, so many people are losing their jobs. They've actually appealed to the Labour Appeals Court to be reinstated because according to them, one of the, they didn't comply with the Labour Relations Act. There was something amiss. I think it was a time frame. But the court has overruled and the retrenchments still hold water and those 3,000 workers will still be unemployed. Okay, grade 12s, we move back and we go on to liquidation. Now, liquidation is, there's no more hope for the business. There is so much debt that they have to sell off everything so that they can pay their creditors. And one of the examples here is VBS Bank. After the bank heist by corrupt employees and directors. Now, VBS Bank, we also chatted a bit about them. They were known for stokvels and for savings of people's money. But because of theft, looting is what it's called. I think we do looting in grade 11 as well.
Yes.
Because of looting, they then had to liquidate the business, and it was ordered by the South African Reserve Bank. And so the Reserve Bank ordered that the business be liquidated, and I think as we're speaking, it is under liquidation.
With that, the immediate question, Chantal, pops up. Where was Mervyn King Codes implemented? I mean, we teach the kids that. Why is this hotshots and CEOs and directors not implementing these strategies?
Yeah.
I mean, many people obviously lost their jobs. And when liquidating, we're looking at this furniture, this glass, everything we will need to sell to gather money to pay off the debts. Mm-hmm. And to me, it is they need to think of the next person and the jobs. Yeah. Jobs is a huge problem in South Africa.
I think what is sad is that people who invested their money, they've invested their money, they've trusted the VBS Bank, they've of course lost money and lost due to white-collar crime. That is what we were talking about.
Yes.
People in powerful positions, they misuse their power and then they stole the money from these people. Okay. Next, we're looking at intensive strategies. So, intensive strategies is made up of market penetration, market development, and product development. Dominique, you were talking about yet another acronym, a powerful acronym.
My acronym that I developed is AM, PM. I mean, everyone associates it with morning and night. If I can just mention, we unfortunately cannot take WhatsApp calls. So we will attend to the WhatsApp messages because the phone has rang more than 3 times already. So please send the WhatsApp messages through. The number is 083-792-1239. Right. Coming back to the acronym, intensive or increasing sales and market shares. There's three strategies. With that said, I remember it as PM. First for P for product development, second one for market development, followed by market penetration. So it's P, product development, and M to the power of 2 because there's 2 M's involved. Market development, and then the second one, market penetration. Chantal, I'd like to explain the market or the product development, if I may.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of Omo. I mean, as a child in the house, we always used Omo. And Omo was always in a box.
Yeah.
And then Omo became a hand wash, and then for an automatic machine, because technology evolved. People don't sit anymore and washing their clothes with their hands. So with that said, then Omo became 2-in-1 with a bit of or a scent of Stay Soft with. And the box evolved to the bag. And the bag evolved to this liquid, which everyone is ranting and raving about. So there we see a product evolving from, and we touched on items such as packaging now, where the product is changing.
Yeah.
Also taught to our learners in grade 11. And then also where the physical product changed from a powder to a liquid.
Okay, thank you, Dominique. You just answered Fletcher's from Eastern Cape, Ramafole Secondary School. He just asked the question, what is product development under intensive strategy? Thank you, Dominique. Okay, are we moving on to?
We need to move on to market development. And I cannot think of a much easier example than our Western Cape or South African wines that's being exported, especially to the European countries, USA, etc. And with thinking of USA automatically, I cannot think of us South Africans not mentioning them exporting and expanding to brands such as Nike into our country. And when we look at the brands such as Coke, it is in, or Coca-Cola, it's in an international market.
Yeah.
So the purpose of this market development, the focus there is on exporting. Because as soon as we export, we enter into a different domain, a different country where we expose those people to our product, and it automatically increases our market share.
Okay, thank you, Dominique. We're now speaking on market penetration. So remember intensive strategies. Just a reminder, we're increasing sales and we're trying to increase the market share. So it's already an existing product. We need to make more sales, or we need to say we have 5 customers, we now need 10 customers. So what do businesses do? They decrease prices of the products to ensure higher sales levels. Now, Dominique and I were again talking about this on Saturday and even today. And I am not a big fan of Black Friday.
Well, I am.
I don't like the shops. But Dominique says she shared her secrets. She shared all her secrets with me about Black Friday.
If the shop is opening at 6, I'm there 5:30. My alarm is set. I am running for that sale prior to Christmas. I need to provide everyone with good presents. So with that said, some people are of such a nature, they run for the impulsive buyers.
Yeah.
Some of us, we look for a good sale. And nowadays, I'm very... I like these online and takealot.com because then they have on there, I avoid the rush and the stampeding. So online makes it easier.
Okay. So there we go with a picture of Black Friday. If we can just have it on screen. Intensive marketing strategy. People are halfway to killing each other. People are losing their shoes. They are breaking their legs. And that was the video that we wanted to show you. But unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, we will show it to you at another time.
If I can just say hello to Tafelsig High School. You are noted, Tafelsig High School.
Okay, grade 12, this is now for you. Seeing that, or we still checking if you're still awake. So the activity, please WhatsApp the answers to us as quickly as you can, because time is going to catch up with us and there's still a lot that we need to do. So identify the business strategy represented by each of the statements below, and this activity is taken directly from your telematics book. Okay? The owner of Wavecrest Express decides also to sell freshly baked bread in her shop. Do we have an answer?
Unfortunately,
we have, welcome for the side. So we have no, it says competitor here from 64952. We have horizontal diversification, and that is from Port Elizabeth, Eastern Cape. The school, let's see if they were right. Yes, correct. Horizontal diversification. Y2K Fisheries has opened new branches in the Western Cape to increase its market share. And we are waiting. Okay, for time's sake, we're just going to skip. And we're going to say market development. Muscle Boss Grape Farm bought juicy stores. That would be forward integration. Below zero stores reduce the prices of all their winter stock to encourage sales. That would be market penetration. Parkland Bricks sold all its assets to pay creditors and closed down the business. That would be liquidation. Okay, Dominique, will you tell us about... Oh, grade 12s, please refrain from WhatsApp calls because it interferes with the signal and with the sound, and we cannot answer your WhatsApp calls, only your questions via the WhatsApp message.
Yes.
Okay.
So there are 3 industrial tools. The industrial tools are linked to the various environments. Now, with the various environments, we identified micro, which is small, and we exercise control over it. Market environment, which consists out of consumers, suppliers, etc. And then the macro environment, which is big, uncontrollable, and uncontrollable. With that, there are 3 industrial tools linked to each one of those environments. Number 1, the micro is SWOT. Number 2, the industrial tool used for market environment is Michael Porter's 5 forces. And thirdly, we have macro environment, and that we use the Paisley analysis. With that said, I would like to go back to the SWOT analysis that we have, in EMS, you were taught that. So, the strengths and weaknesses is definitely developed internally, and our opportunities and threats are external. So we cannot exercise control over that. However, when looking at the market environment, it has 5 role players. When we look at the 5 role players, Michael Porter says he has 5 forces. So the 5 forces is a direct correlation of the 5 role players.
Okay, Dominique, can I just stop you before we go on to Porter's 5? If we can just look at the macro environment, there's the Paisley analysis, and you have also covered this in grade 11. Yes. And in grade 10, we touched on the when you're doing the analysis, you're looking at the political, economic, social, technological, legislation, and environmental components.
Chantal, I know I refer to legislation as legal and law, so that is synonym to the legislation.
Yeah. So you were talking about Porter's 5. If I can just go through the slide that we have. So Porter's 5, like you said, is based on 5 important forces, and Porter's 5 usually mainly looks at the competitive power the business has, right? So it helps businesses identify and recognize the forces that affect competition. They measure the strength and direction of each force, and then they also analyze the power. So before we move on, just good day to Crestway. We acknowledge your presence. Thank you for being here with us. We have many, many schools from the Eastern Cape and from the Northern Cape. Also Masi Bambasani. I think that is a central school. Welcome, Masi Bambasani. Remember, we cannot answer all the questions, so the questions we will answer after this broadcast. So please keep in touch. Right, Dominique, you were talking about the 5 components.
The 5 components is definitely linked to the Michael Porter's 5 forces because they automatically address one another. There are 5 forces. The first one is the power of the supplier, followed by 2. You can actually, while you're sitting there taking down notes, you can number them on your notes. So firstly, the power of supplier. Secondly, the power of the buyer. And when I refer to the power of the buyer, I need us to remember it relates to consumers, the consumers. Third, we have competitive rivalry, followed by the threat of substitution, which is number 4. And then lastly, barriers of the new entrants.
Okay, so just power of suppliers. I like to make the example at our school, we only have one supplier of uniform. So when uniform 34 jerseys are out of stock, we then have to wait on that uniform, on that size 34 jersey to come in, which means that our supplier has got the power over us.
That's correct.
Okay, so what do you think we should do to solve our problem?
Get a new supplier.
Or get as many suppliers as we can.
Because if you're going to get as many suppliers as possible, it can automatically push down the price of the product. You can be greedy and keep the profits at the same profit margin.
Yeah.
But also selling at a lower price might increase your sales.
Yeah.
We saw that with your Black Friday example.
Yeah.
I'd also like to share that you need to establish a relationship with your supplier because I want to go in and I want to negotiate.
Yeah.
When I negotiate, I'm negotiating definitely for lower prices. But also when selecting a supplier, I need to ensure that the supplier is reliable because if I make use of the JIT system, for instance, just in time, and I have an unreliable supplier, it means I cannot produce.
Okay. What would you say about threat of substitutes? How easy is it to not buy a Nike at the Nike store in Canal Hook and go to Bellville and buy the same Nike for a very discounted price?
Now, that is a very interesting topic because the question is, can the people actually really spot the difference? I know, I think it's conscious and other people will look at you. Is it legit a real? Is it the original?
Yeah.
But sometimes we are handicapped with regards to financial constraints.
Yeah.
We want to look the part, we want to dress the part, we want to eat the part, everything. But we're always looking at what suits our pocket.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very important concept to teach our learners because we cannot live on debt and credit cards all our life. With that being said, I mean, I'm a teacher. I get paid on the 15th. So if my budget is on a slowdown, then I'm going for generic. And with generic, and I can't afford a Coke, then I need to do Javai. Javai, I'm sure many of you saw the meme and the video of Javai, which is aka also known as Jive.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on from Porter's 5, I must just add, I think my sons are now at the age where I can't put the wool over their eyes with a substitute. So Nike will still make that money from me now. Moving on, grade 12, just to consolidate on the Porter's 5 forces, we're now going to throw it out to you again and ask you to identify the element of Porter's 5. Which of the 5 forces is represented in each statement? Okay, so a customer prefers fashionable sneakers to more expensive formal shoes.
Sorry, Chantal, can I just give a shout out to Tabo from ID Makiza High School? Hi, Tabo, you are noted today.
Okay, and we're still waiting on responses. Power of the buyers, and that comes from 074 708 8114. Threat of substitution. Okay, that is the correct answer. Also, good afternoon to Valhalla High School, and they are noting that they are from the Western Cape, Miss Dominique. Okay, next statement. Mpo Stores has a few regular customers who always place large orders. And I'm going to go straight to the answer. That would be power of the buyer. Aisha Limited wants to start an exclusive fashion boutique that requires huge capital investment to cover high establishment costs and expensive stock. That would be threats or barriers to new entry. Sam Miller is the only place where bakeries can buy flour, power of the supplier. And Jack Hardware attracts more customers than Tim Hardware. And all of these questions, Ms. Dominique, is what we've taken out of past papers. So there's another application on Play Store. I just cannot get to the name now, but I know there are many applications on Play Store for business studies where they actually give you the question paper per topic. Remember, grade 12, that you write per topic.
Definitely.
So you want to do your revision per topic because you get tested per topic. So they give you the questions per topic, and they also give you the answers. Next time when we tune in, we will share that information with you, grade 12s. Okay, and the last one is competitive rivalry. Another way Porter's 5 forces can be asked, consolidation question. Ms. Dominique, if you can read fast, please. Karen's Events.
Karen's Events. Karen's Events specializes in catering for weddings. Despite Karen's high prices, she has many customers due to excellent service and stylish decor. It was easy to start her business as she only needed a trading license and a small amount of capital. Karen's Events buys all her products from Thule Limited, who is the only provider of wedding decorations and materials in this industry. Sammy's Party Planners, who operates in the same area, offers similar services at affordable prices. The question therefore is, analyze the market environment of Karen's Events using the Porter's 5 forces model.
Okay, so here's a story about Karen, and if you know your Porter's 5 forces, it will jump out to you. Okay, if we look at the memo quickly, we have power of the buyers by identifying. Remember the question said analyze according to Porter's 5. Nowhere did they mention the Porter's 5 forces. So when they name the Porter's 5 force, they get a mark. And then for linking how it relates to Karen or the specific scenario, they get a further 2 marks. So then it was the same for threat of new entrants, competitive rivalry, power of the suppliers, threat of substitutes and alternatives. And so that was Karen. And that question would, I think it was 12 marks. Yes. Right? So for identifying the 5 forces and then further explaining the 5 forces, you would then obtain those 12 marks. Grade 12s, if we look at the essay question on business strategies.
Sure. I think when we mention essay questions, learners automatically become anxious, nervous because of the marks associated with that. And I think our learners need to develop the confidence when answering this question. Like, for example, what is the marker looking for? What is the question actually asking? Am I addressing all my subheadings? Did I make an example? And here, I know they say to us, it must be a wow example so that learners can be allocated the 2 marks. And most importantly, your layout needs to be correct. Having an introduction, a body, which obviously addresses your subheadings, and then a conclusion.
We also find that learners obsess about that 40 marks. And in your June exam, it would then count for 80 marks. And so learners would say, Miss, what essay questions are coming in? And my response is always, business studies is not about essay questions.
That's correct.
It's about studying your content. Because those subheadings, like we see here, explain how a business may use Porter's 5 forces to analyze the market. Describe 3 types of defensive strategies. Discuss the effectiveness of intensive strategies. And suggest steps that business may use to evaluate the strategy. All of those could be asked in section B as for 6 marks, for 8 marks, for 12 marks. So the lesson or the model of the story here is grade 12. always know your content, and you'll see now Porter's 5 was asked as a Section A question where you must just identify. We looked at a scenario question, and now we also looked at a essay question.
I think it's very important to know exactly, Ms. Chantal,
Yeah.
what main topics are you actually targeting?
Yeah.
Because if you know exactly what main topics you are targeting, for example, if you are a learner studying environments, my immediate recommendation to you is you need to study operations because the two are in sync with one another because of the impact of legislation.
Yeah.
The impact of legislation repeats itself in human resources. Hence, when studying or when selecting your main topics to study, I would suggest you tackle question 7 and you tackle question 10. And when you go into the exam location, those are the 2 questions you prepared for, and those are the 2 that you will be answering. Which means whatever anyone spins at you with regards to any of those subtopics, you will need to know. So which means, in this case, for example, you will then prepare yourself on an essay for human resources and quality. But when you study for environments, you're going to do business sectors. I mean, that is very easy.
Yeah, grade 8 work.
Yes. And then the impact on the legislation, and then definitely the strategies. So, which means you covering yourself with Section B to answer question 2, question 5, and you can tackle the miscellaneous question. And then definitely have your Section A. So to me, it's knowing the layout of your paper, your question paper, and then preparing yourself based on those main topics. Where do they fall? What questions? I think sometimes our kids are so overwhelmed with the amount of content and this huge paper, because technically, if you actually think about it, Chantal, that paper is actually out of 500. The learners select what they want to answer.
Yeah.
And that brings us to 300.
Grade 12, just remember also that you've now for this term completed environments, and you've completed a full topic. So environments, if you know it very well now, you can write on environments in June.
Yes.
You can write on environments in your trial exam.
Yes.
And you can write on environments in your final exam. So the same topic would be covered 4 times. What a wow is that?
Let's give these kids a tip.
Okay, we've got 1 minute.
1 minute. I need to say, Chris Ann, happy birthday, my girl. It's Chris Ann, happy birthday. I hope it's your 18th birthday. Congratulations from our side.
Yeah.
Last tip. Right. So we say that if we go back to the content layout, management and leadership is the only topic for ventures that is covered up until the June exam. In many cases, that automatically becomes the essay. So with that being said, management and leadership can either have a hefty weighting for a grade 12 learner in question 8 and also perhaps in question 3, because it's only one topic that was dealt with. And the bulk comes in term 3.
Okay, that being said, grade 12s, we've come to the end of our session. Again, I'd like to tell you everything that we've shared here today. We will answer questions after the session. If I can just get the QR code booklet quickly. This is one of the resources. Please ask your teacher to get into contact with the subject advisor, and they can get into contact with Mr. Lester Momberg, who is the SCP for Business Studies, and they can get this resource material from him. From my side, good luck with your control test and your assessment, your project for this term. We will see you next term, and we will be back with CSR and CSI. To Ms. Dominique, thank you for being my co-presenter today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you to all the learners who tuned in and said thank you and thanked us for the good sessions they had with us.
I think it's overwhelming to respond to all of the messages.
Yeah.
So I see here's a definite need.
Yes. Okay, Dominique, anything you want to end off with?
Good luck. Have fun. It's your matric year. study hard to enter into university
Yeah.
and to create a better future for yourself.
Okay, thank you.